server is just like, you have your computer systems at home, you have a PC or a laptop or something at home, just like that, made of similar components. You have a hardware server, right? So it will have the same components like RAM and hard disk, motherboard, all that will be the same. This will be hosted somewhere in a particular data center in something called as a rack. Okay, so this rack is something like a cabinet where it has power, it has cooling system, it has security systems, all that is available. Okay, now this server is connected to the internet, right? So this server is connected to the internet, and whoever is sitting at home, if you have a laptop or a PC, if you are also connected to the internet, you can access any website which is hosted on this server. So let's say this server belongs to google.com, right? Whenever you type google.com in your browser in your home, this request will go to the internet, correct? And this request will go to the internet. From the internet, it will search where is the server located which has google.com. It will go there, it will pick up the reply, right? It will bring the reply and bring it to your system. Okay, so this is how the entire system works, guys, and this is what we are going to see. Yesterday, those of you who were attending the class, guys, we saw that you create a server, and this server helps you to host your website, right? So in the server, you can host your website, any website. Yesterday, we just put in some demo text, right? And this server can be accessed from the internet very, very quickly. So yesterday we saw that we created this server well within 30 minutes, right? Within 30 minutes. So EC2 is called as Elastic Cloud Compute. Okay, Elastic Cloud Compute or Elastic Compute Cloud, right? So that is ECC. That means EC2. It's just a fancy name to say it's a server, right? So AWS calls it servers as EC2, or it is also called as, okay, so EC2 is the same as a server, okay, and that is the same as an instance. Okay, so all these names are given to the same thing. So all these things mean the same, and it can also be called as a virtual machine. Okay, so EC2, server, instance, virtual machine, all these terms can be used interchangeably, right? So I can say instance, it means the same when I say virtual machine. So all these things mean the same, right? So yesterday we saw how to create the server, guys. Today I'm going to explain it to you in a little more detail, and you will get a very good idea about how do we create a server in the cloud or in AWS, right? So first of all, you have to understand, guys, what is a server? A server is one operating system which is residing on a hardware, right? So yesterday I showed you a lot of types of servers. Guys, again, those who missed yesterday's class, please go through the recording which is available in LMS portal. Okay, so we saw that there is a hardware, right? So what is hardware? The RAM, the operating system, the RAM, the motherboard, the hard disk, all that is the hardware, right? So that is the hardware. Okay, then on top of that hardware, we install one operating system, correct? We installed one operating system. Yesterday we installed Windows operating system, right? But this can be anything. It can even be Linux, okay? Or if you want, you can even install Macintosh, right? All these options are available to us. But what happens is, guys, when it comes to a server, like let's say that I have a physical server. Let's say that we are 10 years, when we go 10 years back in time, right? So what used to happen is, we all know what a hardware is, right? So let's say that this hardware, this server that I have, correct? So just like in our home PCs, when we have a server, the server also has a certain hardware configuration. Okay, so let's say that this server hardware configuration is 32 GB RAM. Okay, I hope you all understand what is RAM and all, guys. So you have to make sure that you understand all these terms, guys, because what we are walking into is a fairly advanced course. So please, if there are certain terms that you're not understanding, please make sure you go back to Google and search for it and understand. Okay, so 32 GB RAM. Let's say it has a 2 terabytes hard disk drive. Okay, and let's say that it has a 3 gigahertz 16 core CPU. Okay, so this is our hardware basically. Okay, so this is the hardware that we have. Now let's say that I have installed one Windows operating system on this. Okay, so I'm installing only one Windows operating system. So this is my server. I have installed I have the hardware. On that I have installed a Windows operating system. Okay, now guys, what's happening here is, let's say that I'm installing an application here, any application, it can be anything. Let's say that it is something like Visual Studio or whatever it is, right? So I'm installing an application here. Now what happens is, guys, whenever you are installing certain applications on servers, this application will be accessed on a network by multiple users, correct? So when you install one application, you have to make sure that you do not install any other applications along with it. Why? Because let's say that there are two applications, and let's say that application 2 is going to be, let's say that application 2 has some issue, right? Let's say application 2 has some issue, and application 2 is failing. In that case, what will happen? Application 2 needs to be restarted, correct? So there are two applications running, but one application has failed and that needs to be restarted. So for that application to be restarted, it's very much possible that we may have to restart the entire server if it has crashed, right? So if the application has crashed, maybe we need to at times require to restart the entire server, correct? So in that case, what will happen? The application number 2, which was working absolutely fine, right, even that will be impacted, right? So maybe there are 5,000 users who are connected to the server, right? So because this application has to be restarted, the entire server needs to be restarted. All 5,000 users will be impacted. Maybe that server takes around 15 to 20 minutes to restart. So servers are not like our laptops and all, guys, right? So servers, physical servers especially, take a very very long time to restart based on the applications and operating system that are installed. It will take at least 10 minutes for it to be restarted, right? So you can imagine 5,000 people not being able to work for 10 to 15 minutes is a big problem, right? So that's why what we used to do is, we never have two major applications on the same server hardware, right? So what we will do is we'll separate them. So we will keep one server hardware like this, and then we will take another server hardware like this for another application, right? So on top of this, we will have another operating system, right? So we will have another OS here, and then we will have another application here. Okay, so we have now separated. So, but what is the problem happening here, guys? The cost is majorly increasing, right? So I told you yesterday that any one server will be costing at least $2,000 to $3,000, right? So you can imagine, if I have to purchase two servers just for two applications, it's a big problem, right? Because I have to invest. Let's say that I have 5 applications, 6 applications, and I have to separate them. Then it will be a big problem if I have to invest that much amount of money. right? So this was the major challenge that we had earlier because we used to invest a lot of money in the hardware, right? So how was this problem solved, right? So it was solved by a technology called as virtualization. It was solved by a technology called as virtualization. So what is virtualization? It's a very, very important concept, guys, because this is what is used in the backend in the AWS data centers also, right? So let's understand what is this virtualization. Okay, so in virtualization, guys, you can actually create virtual servers, right? So for example, if you see here, there are two physical servers. Physical as in just like you have your laptop in your hand, right? You have one desktop PC in your home. That is one physical server. Correct. So here we have two physical servers, right? But through virtualization in the same one physical hardware server, I can create multiple virtual servers, right? So how will we do that? First of all, this will be taken out. And if you see, this is the configuration that I have. Okay, this is the configuration that I have for my server. Okay. Now, what we will do is instead of this one operating system directly being installed on the hardware, what we will do is we will install another application. Okay, we will install one application. This application is called as a hypervisor. Okay, so this particular application is called as a hypervisor. And what this hypervisor does is this hypervisor allows us to split the one hardware server into multiple virtual servers. Okay, so this gives us the ability to split this one physical hardware into multiple virtual systems. So because of that, what I can do is earlier on in one laptop we can only install one operating system, correct? So in your laptop there are some other tasks that you can do. You can have dual boot and all. I'm not talking about that. Majorly in a generally in a one laptop you have one operating system, right? So here through hypervisor what you can do is you can have multiple virtual machines created. Okay, let's say that right now I'm creating three. Okay, you can create multiple virtual machines, and these virtual machines will be assigned virtual hardware which is based on the physical hardware that is available, right? So here if you see, this is the total hardware that is available, right? So I can distribute this total available hardware into these three virtual machines. Okay, so let's say that this is my VM1. Okay, so what is VM? VM means virtual machine, right? So I'm saying virtual machine 1, and this is my virtual machine 2. This is my virtual machine 3. Okay, so I have created three virtual machines on the same physical server, and these three can have different operating systems. They can have either the same operating systems or different operating systems also. So let's say this is my Windows server. Okay, let's say that this is my Windows server. This is a Linux server, and this is also a Windows server. Okay, now what will I do? I will assign the available total hardware to all these three virtual machines. I'll distribute it, right? And it does not need to be equal. It does not need to be equal. So now I can decide based on what application is installed on these hardware on these servers. I can decide how much hardware I want to give. Let's say that in VM1, in virtual machine 1, I have a very heavy application which requires a lot of hardware resources, right? In that case, what I can do is here I can assign something like 16 GB of RAM. Okay, I can assign 16 GB of RAM. Okay, and then I can assign maybe 1 TB of hard disk drive, right? And I can assign 8 cores of CPU. Okay, because this is a very heavy application which requires a lot of hardware configuration. I have assigned this. Okay, and maybe on VM2 and VM3, I'm using only a medium heavy application. So here, what I can do is I can have 8 GB RAM. Okay, I can have maybe 500 GB hard disk space and maybe 4 cores of CPU. Okay, similarly here also I can have 8 GB RAM, then I can have 500 GB hard disk, okay, and 4 core of CPU, right? So this is how you can define the actual physical drive, if physical resources available, you can distribute it among the virtual machines, right? So here you have installed Windows, here you have created Linux, here you have created Windows again, right? So what has happened now? Within the same one server which was costing $2,000 to $3,000, now instead of purchasing three servers costing 3,000 each, we have completed the same task by using just one server which was costing. So we have saved almost 6,000 rupees. So we have saved almost two-thirds the cost that we were going to install. Why? Because we use something called as a hypervisor. So this is an application. This needs to be purchased. This will also have a certain cost involved. But this hypervisor is a tool or a software which helps us to do this. Okay, so someone was asking me what is bare metal, right? So this is exactly what is bare metal. When you have a server hardware on which you are installing this hypervisor directly, that is called as bare metal. At times it happens that in the hardware you install one operating system, on that you install the hypervisor. That is also possible. That is there you use something like VMware and all for those who are from virtual networking, for those who are from virtual machines background. But here, when you install the hypervisor directly on the hardware, that is called as bare metal, right? So this is how it works. Using one server hardware, you can create multiple virtual machines. This saves a lot of costs, and the biggest advantage is this helps us to utilize our resources to the best of our abilities, right? So just imagine earlier there was only one application running on the server, right? And because there was only one application running on the server, maybe it was using around 16 GB of RAM at the max. Then the rest of the 16 GB of RAM was getting wasted, right? It was not being used because we could run only one application on the server. We were not running multiple applications, right? But here now we are running multiple operating system and multiple applications. Because of that, we are utilizing the server hardware to the best of the abilities. Okay, so now guys, so the main point that comes to here is in the cloud, guys, you don't have to worry about virtualization or how do we do virtualization, how do we use hypervisor. You don't have to worry about all that. Okay, you don't need to do anything in terms of virtualization. We have just learned the process, right? We have just learned what is virtualization so that we can understand it. You don't need to know what is the name of some hypervisor or something. Not required. Okay, so this same concept, how is it applied in AWS? Let's see that. So let's say that I have one AWS data center. This is a very large data center where thousands and thousands of servers are available. So in this data center there will be many large capacity servers which will be running. Okay, so you again, these are all running in the AWS data center. Let's say that you and I, when we are creating our one EC2 machine, like I did yesterday, right? When you are creating one EC2 machine, it is created in any one of these physical servers, right? That's all you need to know. When you are creating any virtual servers, it is being created in one of the physical servers in AWS data center, right? That is how they are able to create so many virtual machines for so many of us, right? So let's say that you are creating 5 servers, I'm creating 10 servers. How are they managing all this? They are creating our virtual servers in the hardware that they have in their data centers, right? So that is how they are creating the servers. Okay, so I'm going through some questions. If all the Okay, so someone's asking me, can we modify the RAM and HDD after VM creation? Yeah, in the physical earlier, like this is not in AWS case. Again, I'm telling you the concept that we used to have earlier, right? So there you can, based on the features that your hypervisor provides, in most of the cases, yes, you can modify the RAM and HDD after the VM creation. Yeah, so guys, again, I'm telling you there are different types of hypervisors. There are hypervisors which run on top of an operating system like VMware, VirtualBox, etc. But most of the times in large organizations, that is not what is used, right? In small organizations, we can use operating system based hypervisors like VMware and VirtualBox. In most of the large organizations like AWS, Microsoft Azure, and all, they use something called as bare metal hypervisors, where you do not need an operating system running on top of a server hardware, right? You don't need an operating system running. You just install the hypervisor directly on the server, right? So it's installed directly on the server. On that, you can install the other operating systems and create virtual machines. Okay, so guys, just understand the concept. You don't need to know this in depth. This is